So there is a huge untapped area of mobile apps that I'm going to talk about today that I call back pocket apps, something that I talk about in my book. But before I even get into what these back pocket apps are, I'm going to explain why I think they're important. I'm going to do that by starting with a picture of a toaster. This is a toaster from the late 1940s. It was a time in which we were obsessed with aerodynamic speed and trains and airplanes and cars. And so we made aerodynamic toasters. We loved the streamlined train and the speed of that form, so we made streamlined irons. We loved cruise ships and large transportation devices, so we formed apartment complexes to look like cruise ships. That's no cruise ship. That's my apartment complex. Today we're obsessed with phones and laptops and tablet computers. We're even obsessed with failed technology like 3D television. So our products look like this. This is Crest 3D whitening. It's the #1 selling toothpaste in the United States. And unlike all the other toothpaste on the market, this one is 3D. This is one of the top-selling sunglasses on Amazon.com. It promises HD vision. This is how people market mattresses, not with a picture of a mattress, but with a woman sleeping on a fully charged battery icon. Not to be left out, Doritos has new 3D printed potato chips. These everyday products are fun to talk about, but they're cultural reflections of what's really going on. If you want a little more empirical data, you just have to look at what young people are choosing to study. And more people are choosing careers related to technology. At well-rounded schools like Stanford, where they used to be known for their psychology program, they're becoming more and more of a computer science school. At art schools across the country, there's a greater and greater interest in interaction design programs. There's all this excitement, all this momentum, all this talent in this room, and all this talent that's coming. But we're setting a sort of low bar for what we can achieve, because I think we're missing a huge opportunity to embrace tech better. This is a set of job listings from some of the top technology companies around the United States. You'll notice something a little unusual about these job listings. They advertise for these UX/UI designers. But user experience and user interface designer are two very different things. A visual designer who's a great UI designer is looking at all the elements on a screen, trying to compose them in a way that makes sense to the end user. It's a really important job, but it's very different than thinking about larger user experience problems, about empathizing and trying to find the best possible solution to a problem. When you confuse trying to solve problems for users and trying to draw screens, you make it someone's job to solve problems with screens. Good experience design isn't good screens, it's good experiences. There's a lot of confusion about what design should be doing in technology today. Part of it is because there's a lot of poor metrics. Designers are evaluated by how many clicks they generated or how addicted or how hooked they got someone to the product. Instead of what design is really about, which is about elegance and efficiency, building loyalty. That's what designers are there to do. Earlier this year, The Verge had a piece called The Engineers of Addiction. It was about how Silicon Valley companies are taking inspiration from Las Vegas slot machines that have led to addictions and gambling. That's our inspiration. In the book, I have a chapter called Addiction UX, which covers a great deal of this. But I think at the end result, the thing to remember is what we've kind of ended up with is that our output is more and more screen time for more and more people. I mean, children in the United States look at a screen for about 2 hours a day. Teenagers spend a little over 7 hours a day in the US looking at a screen. As adults, we spend over 8 hours a day on average looking at some kind of screen. There are, of course, consequences to screen-based thinking, plenty of things you've probably heard before. We're all distracted from our friends and family and conversation. The CDC estimates that 1,000 people every day get into a car accident because they're distracted by screens in their car. One thing that people don't really realize is that the color temperature on our screens have these deep blacks and bright whites, and that color temperature produces that to provide these rich colors. But when we look at it at night, it throws off our circadian rhythm. It makes our body think that it's midday because that's what that color temperature illuminates. We are the nation's largest national public radio affiliate, WNYC, had a series earlier this year called Bored and Brilliant. It was about all these studies that show when we're bored and we have nothing to do is when we have the most creative moments, like those moments in the shower and when we're not distracted. But all the other moments in our life have been sort of occupied by screens. And all these sort of startups and companies trying to solve for micro-boredom by looking at a screen have made us less creative as a country. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are good things about screens. These slides wouldn't be here if it wasn't for screens. You might not have heard about this event if it wasn't for the information distributed to you through screens. But I think there's a lot we can do when we shift and we understand the kind of technology we're working with today and how those paradigms are different than the paradigms we're used to using that were created about 20 to 30 years ago when making software. I think there's a greater way to grow your entire tech business without using any screens at all. A couple years ago, I saw this app icon. It's the Moves app. It was acquired by Facebook. The icon looks different now, but when it first launched, there was something really interesting about this icon. Not visually, it's visually a little bit weird actually, but conceptually there was something really nice about this. It shows a phone in your pocket. Unlike all the other applications buzzing and beeping and trying to get you to pull it out with notifications, this app said, we work best in your pocket. We're a sort of back pocket app. Now what Moves did is they just tracked your number of steps and where you went while the app sat in your pocket. And later you could get some information out of it by unfortunately looking at a screen and looking through some sort of data dashboard, which is so-so result. This is a different problem, losing your keys. It happens to a lot of people. This is a statistic about how people in the UK spend at least 15 minutes a day looking for lost items. Hopefully we're not as bad, but there's a startup a few years ago called Lockatron, which launched an app that you put this cover over your deadbolt of your apartment door or your home, and then you have this app, and it has this giant unlock or a lock button, and you unlock your door and you get in. And Lockatron launched this, and people are excited. They launched an app for that. But they kind of zoomed out and they looked at the UX. Their UI was fine, but they looked at their larger UX situation, and it looked something like this. It looked like I walk up to my door and I want to open my apartment door. I want to open my apartment door and I pull out my phone. I want to open my apartment door and I wake up my phone. I want to open my apartment door and at the time with iOS I swiped unlock. I want to open my apartment door and I enter my PIN code. I want to open my apartment door so I hit the home button to exit my last open app. I want to open my apartment door so I hit the home button to exit my last open group. I want to open my apartment door so I swipe through a sea of icons to find the Lockatron app. I want to open my apartment door so I tap to hit the Lockatron app. That's step number 9. Step number 10, I want to open my apartment door so I wait for the app to load. Step number 10, I want to open my apartment door so I hit the unlock, the giant unlock button on the Lockatron app. And then step number 12, I want to open my apartment door so I open my apartment door. I looked at this and I thought, well, something here is wrong. This can't be right. So they thought, what if we eliminate the interface? What if we just embrace someone's typical process and they just walk up to the door and they can open the door? And when they looked at this differently, when they looked at this user experience instead of a set of wireframes or screens, they came to a very simple conclusion. They thought, well, if we put a Bluetooth radio in our deadbolt and we have Bluetooth capability in our app, when you get really close to the deadbolt, the door can just open. It can just delight people while the app sits in your back pocket. Pretty straightforward. They went from this sort of screen-based thinking that we've been doing, that we've embraced since the 1980s, to this screenless thinking that we can now do with all the sensors and capabilities that exist in our phones. When Lockatron played that video that I showed earlier on Kickstarter, they generated over $2 million. That's really good for a door lock. There are other companies who have kind of experimented with different kinds of back pocket apps. While Square had its wallet app available, it had sort of a back pocket app functionality, When you showed up to a cafe where you had the auto tab feature on, your name showed up and some of your previous orders showed up behind the register. So for you, it was a back pocket app. For the person behind the counter, they were looking at a screen. And when you showed up, your picture was there. And it was time to pay, you just said your name and you grabbed your item. You never took your phone out of your pocket to pay. That's a back pocket app that creates a moment of delight when you never take your phone out of your pocket. There's a startup called Ginger.io, which looks at a variety of healthcare products. One of the things they do is they create a back pocket app for people who have severe health issues. So for example, if you have severe mental health, severe depression, they have this app that just sits on your phone. And what they found is a lot of people are terrible at filling out the sort of forms at doctors. How are you feeling today, 1 through 10? And that's not so great. So what they did instead is they created this back pocket app, this app that just sits in your phone, and it monitors your activity. It sees, when did you wake up? When did you leave your house or not? Are you calling friends or family? And it's hooked up with information that can be then distributed to your healthcare professional or other friends and family that might need to get alerted that you are in this state, that you are in this depression state. It's slightly invasive, but it's something you opt into that can really help these people out. It's an app that works with no interaction at all, just by using the incredible technology on a phone. Our lives are filled with screens, and unfortunately, a lot of intentionally addictive interfaces. But I actually think you can fuel growth by making these elegant, useful, screenless experiences the kinds of things design is there to do. Apps that work best in your back pocket. That's it. Thanks.